So we are pretty much a year and a half into the 2023 draft class's careers, and a couple videos ago I did a 2023 redraft. You guys really enjoyed that. So today I'm going to go back to that 2023 draft, go through every single first round pick and give it a letter grade on how it's done so far. And like always, if you agree or disagree with anything I say today, hey, please let me know down below. I love talking basketball with you guys in the comments, so yeah, let me know. Also, 76% of you guys that watch my videos are not subscribed, so hit that subscribe button for constant NBA content. Let's get into this. So we'll start off with the number 1 overall pick. I think that's a good place to start, and it was the most obvious number 1 pick of maybe this 21st century outside of LeBron James. It was Victor Wembanyama. Even though it was just a chalk pick, it was the easiest pick that front office could have made. It's an easy A+. Wemby has played 101 games in his career so far, and he just turned 21 years old, and he already might be a top 5 player in the NBA this season. That is just an unreal feat that Wemby has already accomplished in this league, but he's someone that is currently averaging 25.7 points per game, 10.7 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 48% from the field, 35% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line this season. That is an all-NBA caliber first team season, and he's just 21 years old. He's leading the NBA with 3.9 blocks a night. He finished runner-up in Defensive Player of the Year voting last year to Rudy Gobert. Well, yeah, he's going to win that award this year. There's a good chance Wemby is DPOY, All-NBA first or second team, All-Defensive first team, and definitely an All-Star this year. The sky is the limit for Wemby, and if he could stay healthy, he could actually be on a GOAT career path, a GOAT career trajectory, and could end up as a top 15 player of all time. I don't think any of this is insane to say just because of how unreal Wemby has been so far, and the only thing that is stopping him right now is health. And I think no matter what, the Spurs can put a half-decent team around him, and he can bring them to the playoffs. That's what he's doing this year. Next up, we have Brandon Miller, who was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to give this an A, because this was actually a tough decision to make at the time. A lot of people, including me, I'll say I was wrong here, wanted them to take Scoot Henderson. I thought Scoot Henderson was better than Brandon Miller pre-draft, and that is one of my biggest draft blunders I have done in a little bit. And Brandon Miller, although his numbers are down a little bit this year in terms of efficiency, I still think he's going to be a very good player for a long time in this league, and I think the Hornets made the right pick. In a 2023 redraft, you guys saw that video, I'd still have them go Brandon Miller at 2, because Brandon Miller finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting behind Wemby and Chet last year. He averaged 17 points, 4 rebounds, and shot 44% from the field and 37% from 3. Now, his efficiency across the board, at least in terms of 2-point percentage and 3-point percentage, are down this year. He shot 49% on 2s last year, down to 47% this year, 37% on 3s last year to 36% from 3s this year. But if you watch any Charlotte Hornets games, especially if you watch those games without LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller to take like 30 shots a night, because nobody else on this team can create their own shot. Nobody else on this team you can really rely on in the half court to do anything with the ball in their hands. And Brandon Miller had to be the prime playmaker, the prime lead initiator for this team at certain points of the year. And I think that's why his numbers are down. He's getting double teamed. He's going at the rim where there's just a bunch of guys in the paint that can wait to help and play good help defense on Brandon Miller. So I think he's going to be just fine. He's somebody that is 6'9", he's 22 years old, and I still think he could be a legitimate 3-level scorer in today's modern NBA, which is so valuable to get somebody that could be an efficient scoring wing. And yeah, I just mentioned before, the Scoot Henderson pick. I gotta give this a D+. I really do. I don't think Scoot has been an F player by any means. I actually think at times this year, he's taking steps and looks like he is improving off his poor rookie season. But man, oh man, has that's been disappointing, because there was talks that Scoot is closer to Wemby than Scoot to the next best guy after him in this draft class. And he ended up going number 3. I thought he was going to be the perfect successor to Damian Lillard. Not right away, obviously, but over the course of time. And Scoot just doesn't look as bouncy, as athletic as he did with the G League Ignite. And his shot has struggled at times to start off his career. He's played 89 games in his career, and he shot sub 40% from the field, 32% from 3, and 80% from the line. Now, I do think Scoot's in a bad environment, but it's tough because I think Charlotte is just as bad of an environment for Brandon Miller, and he's been succeeding at times. And I know Chauncey Billups isn't a great coach. I know they've had a big roster turnover at times with Scoot there, but there are games where he just can't capitalize on that momentum to be somebody that can average an efficient 17 points and 7 assists a night. And it also doesn't help that Chauncey Billups just refuses to start Scoot. As last year, Scoot started 32 games out of 62 games. This year, he's played 27 games, but has started just 3 of them. His minutes per game has actually dropped by 2.5 this year. He's taking 3 less shots per game, which is pretty frustrating to watch when you're a big fan of Scoot like I am, and I'm trying to watch him develop. I can't give this thing anything better than a D+ from what Scoot Henderson has done so far, and because of the player that went after him. I think the Houston Rockets deserve an A grade for this selection, because there are still question marks about Thompson's ceiling as an offensive player, just overall in terms of scoring scoring, but he could do so many things, basically everything else on the basketball court, so well and above an average level. He's somebody that could defend at a great level, somebody that is 21 years old, he's 6'7", he's lightning quick, and I think him and his twin brother are some of the more athletic players in the NBA, and they were just drafted last year. He's a fantastic rebounder. Maybe the assist numbers aren't where you thought they would be, because in the pre-draft process, when he was coming out of the overtime elite, we expected him to be this possible playmaking point guard. And I don't think he's really had a chance to be that type of player behind Fred VanVleet in Houston so far, but he is an efficient scorer inside. He is shooting 62% on 2-pointers. It's just Amen Thompson has struggled from the 3-point range and free throws in his career so far, and that's the only thing holding him back from, I think, going a lot higher in a redraft, basically going above Brandon Miller, because I do worry about Amen Thompson's shot. But if he can find a consistent shot, if he could just lock himself in an offseason gym with like Steph Curry or AJ Green, honestly, anybody like that could just teach him how to be a consistent 3-point shooter. Hey, I'll take 33% a night from Amen Thompson. He could turn into one of the best two-way players in the NBA one day. And then Amen Thompson's twin brother, Asor Thompson, went the pick later at number 5, and I'm going to give this a B. Asor Thompson had a pretty scary blood clot situation going on last year, so he missed a lot of time to start off this year's season, and I was worried about his athleticism might not be able to carry over just because of this health scare, but he looks as bouncy as ever. That off-the-glass alley-oop from Cade Cunningham against Minnesota was insane. It was jaw-dropping, and like I said before, that him and Amen Thompson are some of the most athletic, if not the most athletic players in the NBA because of plays like that. This year, though, his minutes have gone down from 25 a night last year to 18 a night this year because JB Bickerstaff is getting him back into the swing of things. They did add some veteran wings like Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, and Tobias Harris that have eaten into his minutes a little bit. He's averaging 7.5 points, 4.7 rebounds, 1.5 steals in 18 minutes a night. He's shooting 50% from the field. He's kind of like a carbon copy. He's basically a clone of his twin brother. They have so many similarities, and basically if either one of them can figure out a jump shot, they're just going to be an insane two-way player. Basically the same thing I said about Amen Thompson. I just think Amen has shown a little bit more so far on both ends to get that A grade compared to Asor's B, but I still really like him as a prospect. He's still a prospect. Next up at number 6, we have Anthony Black going to the Orlando Magic. I'm going to give this a B- because I've been a little disappointed in Anthony Black so far because this was his time to shine. This is his moment where he could show that he could be a very good scorer in the half court. Now that Paolo's out, Franz is out, Mo's out for the year, and Jalen Suggs just went down. We're seeing guys like Tristan da Silva step up at times and Goga Badatse, but I feel like Anthony Black has just been kind of inconsistent. I still think he's a really good complementary piece, a good connecting piece. He could defend well, he could pass well, he could definitely run well in transition, but he's just struggled with his shot this year. He's shooting 41% from the field, 26% on threes, 75% from the free throw line. I think he's a good defender. I think he's a good passer. I've just been underwhelmed this year by Anthony Black just because I had high expectations. And with this increase in opportunity that we may not see again once everybody's healthy, you just got to be a little bit disappointed, but I still think he's been a good pick so far. Definitely a lot better than their other lottery pick, who we'll get to. Next up at number 7, we had the Washington Wizards move up a spot to take Bilal Coulibaly. I'm giving this a B+. Now, you may look at his numbers, you might be like, Matt, he's averaging 13 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Those are good numbers, but 42% from the field, 30% from 3, and 78% from the line. Well, Bilal Coulibaly is still just 20 years old. He's going to be 20 years old throughout the rest of this year's season. He's still incredibly young. Last year, he didn't really get a ton of opportunity playing with Victor Wembanyama over on the Mets 92 team in France. He's getting way more opportunities this year, and he's thrown into one of the worst environments in the NBA right now in terms of team building and team success. His veterans are Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma at times, and I do think Bilal has shown great two-way potential on the offensive end and the defensive end, and I think that time's going to come. He's 20 years old. Brandon Miller is 22. Let's just see what Bilal could be for another 2 years because he's somebody that is 6'6". He's got a good handle. He can run in transition, and he's super athletic. And I think he's going to be a good player in this league in just a few years. So I think this was the right pick for the Washington Wizards, given where they were in their rebuild, which was just starting. Next up at number 8, we have the Indiana Pacers, who took Jarris Walker. I'm giving this a B-. I think Jarris Walker is such a good player in this league, but Rick Carlisle and this Pacers kind of coaching staff has done a terrible job giving him consistent minutes. He's actually been very good over his last 6 games where he's averaging 11.5 points. He's shooting 53% from the field, 52% from 3, and averaging around 2 rebounds and 1.2 steals a night. And he's getting consistent playing time around 25, 20-ish minutes a night, but that has been dropping. And Aaron Nesmith is coming back soon. And I really hope that once he does, Jarris Walker doesn't get phased out of the rotation because I do think the Pacers have done a pretty poor job developing him so far, and he's shown so much potential on both ends of the floor. He could still be one of the best defensive players in this draft class, I think, at his peak, and he's a good offensive player. It's just a shame that they had failed to give him consistent playing time, so I can't really give this higher than a B- for what he's done individually on this team. Next up at number 9, we had Taylor Hendricks go to the Utah Jazz, and I loved Taylor Hendricks last year towards the end of the year. We actually finally got consistent playing time. I'm going to give this a C, though, just because Hendricks looked all right to start off this year, but then he had that gruesome injury, and he's going to be out for the year with that fractured right fibula and dislocated right ankle, so that is a shame, and that may hurt his development a little bit, so I think this is a pretty fair neutral grade for Taylor Hendricks. I think if he carried that momentum from what we saw in March last year in April, this could have been around a B for Taylor Hendricks, but this injury is going to be a setback, so I think I really can't give it higher than a C right now, with just the unknown on how he's going to look when he comes back next year. Coming in at number 10, we had the OKC Thunder, who traded up with the Dallas Mavericks to take Cason Wallace. I'm giving this a B. I don't know if that's a hot take, but Cason Wallace has been a very good defender so far, and that's why he's getting a B. If he wasn't this good defensively, this would definitely drop, because I have been disappointed with Cason Wallace offensively this year. Last year, we did see him on a smaller sample size, but 2.9 3-point attempts a night, shoot 41% from 3, and someone that got notable minutes in the playoffs. He played 82 games last year throughout the regular season and was a staple rotational guy for OKC, getting 20 minutes a night. Now this year, he's getting 27 minutes a night. The field goal percentage has dropped from 49% to 42% on about one more shot a night. That 3-point shot, though, has cratered. Like I said, 41% from 3 last year to 29% from 3 this year, and I think that has been disappointing. Like I said, he's an incredible defender. That's why this is a B. The only reason why it's not higher is because I don't know what his ceiling is offensively anymore because of the down shooting year. I'm going to be harsh here. I really am, because I didn't like this pick when it happened. I thought it was a reach. I thought there were some better players on the board, but Orlando took Jett Howard at number 11. I'm giving this an F. And like I said before with Anthony Black, how he hasn't really been taking advantage to be consistent enough with these reps, but he's looking like he's going to be a true rotational piece for this team for a long, long time. Jett Howard, though, has not been great this year. His numbers are 37% from the field, 31% from 3. He's averaging 4.5 points a night. Now, he did have a good game against Utah recently, and I hope that is going to be a step in the right direction for Jett, but I just feel like he's never going to have the time to shine on this team as Franz comes back and Paolo, and hopefully Jalen Suggs isn't going to be out for too long. I think it's going to be harder and harder for Jett Howard to get fully acclimated into this team. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded soon, because they got 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft as well. I think it's going to be tougher and tougher for Jett to find consistent minutes on this squad. I think they'd like to have this one back. So that's going to be one of the worst grades in this video. We're going to follow it up with an A from Dallas at number 12, and that is Derek Lively. Trading down with OKC, getting off that Davis Bertans contract to draft somebody that has done so well in your offense and has done a perfect job with chemistry with Luka Doncic and just being that great pick and roll, that great lob threat. Yeah, that's an easy A for me, because Derek Lively was such a vital part to their championship run last year. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting. He played 55 games throughout the regular season and obviously played meaningful minutes for them in the Western Conference Finals, in the NBA Finals. This year, he's averaging around the same numbers, 8.5 points, 8 rebounds a night, 2.5 assists. I've seen the playmaking go up a little bit. The shot blocking's up as well. He's playing around the same minutes a night. He's obviously splitting that center spot with Daniel Gafford. He's getting 24 minutes a night. Same with Daniel Gafford. And I think once Gafford's maybe gone, like Lively getting 30 plus minutes a night is going to be a joy to watch in the NBA one day. This is an easy A. Next up at 13, we have the Toronto Raptors selecting Grady Dick. I'm giving this an A-. This is probably who Orlando should have took at number 11, because they could definitely use somebody of Grady Dick's 3-point shooting skills, as Grady Dick has broken out this year. He got off to a fantastic start this season, has struggled a little bit as of late, especially finishing at the rim, but he's averaging 17.5 points this year, up from 8.5 last year. He's shooting 41% from the field, which is down from last year because he is struggling finishing at the rim, and the 2-point percentage is down as well, but he's shooting 35% from 3 on 7 attempts a night. He's averaging 3.5 rebounds. He can make some very tough pull-up jumpers and can create his own shot. And I think one day when the Toronto Raptors are back in the NBA playoffs, Grady Dick is going to be such an impactful rotational piece that this pick is going to be a home run in hindsight. Next up at 14, we had Jordan Hawkins go to the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to give this a B-. Jordan Hawkins got off to a great start this year, like Grady Dick, but he has been struggling a little bit as of late. He's also dealt with a ton of injuries this year. He's played 20 games. He's averaging 11 points, but he's shooting 34% from the field and 32% from 3. I still really like this pick because I thought the Pelicans, when they took him, were going to be competing in the playoffs. Obviously, last year, that kind of happened because they did make the playoffs, but they were without Zion, and they got swept by OKC. This year, they're definitely not making the playoffs, so I'm not going to be able to watch Jordan Hawkins on the big stages this year at all. But I do think when New Orleans is probably going to be back in playoff consideration next year, after this year is just kind of like a throwaway year because of all the injuries, he's going to be a good player for them, and I think the efficiency will bounce back to what it was in his rookie year and what it mainly was at UConn. This one pains me to say, but at 15, Atlanta took Kobe Buffkin. I'm giving this a D+. I loved Kobe Buffkin pre-draft out of Michigan. He was one of my favorite players in this class, but when he got drafted by Atlanta, I really didn't like that fit for him because he was going to be behind DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. This year, he has dealt with some injuries. He's been in and out of the rotation. Basically, he's only played 27 games in his career so far, and the efficiency has not been great. 38% from the field this year, 21% from three, in a small sample size of just 10 games. I feel like he struggles with his confidence out there and really getting any type of rhythm, and I don't think Atlanta is a great destination for him. And I do wonder if they're going to make a trade to upgrade this team at the deadline. Would they look to try to include Kobe Buffkin in that deal? And I wouldn't mind that because I think he could benefit from a change of scenery. And this is probably a player they should have took who went 15 to Utah, Keontae George. I'm giving this a B+. I'm always going to give Keontae George the benefit of the doubt because they just threw him into the fire. When he got drafted out of Baylor here at 16, they're like, yeah, you're going to be a top 3 usage guy on this team, and we need you to run this offense. You're going to be our true point guard, and he was not ready for that. And I honestly think he's done a pretty good job, especially this year. He's been great over his last 13 games where he's shooting 38% from 3 and averaging 16.5 points, 5.5 assists, and 4 rebounds. He's still inconsistent. He'll have a good shooting night and then a bad shooting night, but he's still incredibly young. He's still incredibly raw as a prospect, and I think is miles better than I thought he would be at this point. So I think this is one of the better picks here in the teens. And yeah, we're going to have another F. This is a different kind of F here at number 17 where the Lakers took Jalen Hood-Schifino. It already hurt that they took Hood-Schifino over guys that went after him. That definitely would be helping the Lakers right now. But the Lakers basically cut him. Not really. He's still on the roster right now, but they declined his team option for next year. So he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's only played 2 games this year. He's only played 23 games in his career. And I was a fan of Jalen Hood-Schifino at Indiana. I didn't really like where the Lakers took him, and I didn't really like the fit with Hood-Schifino and LA, and it just didn't work out. That's why it's an F. He basically averaged 1.7 points across 23 games since the Lakers drafted him, and I hope he's like Jalen Smith 2.0, where the Suns did the same thing. They declined his third-year team option, then they traded him to Indiana, and I hope Jalen Hood-Schifino gets traded this year, and we could see him play a little bit on a bad team. Maybe it's like a Brooklyn team or a Washington team, because I still think he could be a fine player in this league. It just didn't work out whatsoever in Los Angeles. Next up, we have an interesting one, and I'm going to give this pick a C+, and that is Jaime Jaquez to the Miami Heat. Yeah, the same Jaime Jaquez that finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting last year, 9th in Sixth Man of the Year voting. But I was always kind of cautious about Jaime Jaquez and overreacting to his rookie year because he was 22 years old last year. He's 23 years old right now, and he's going to be 24 years old in a couple of weeks. Are we going to see Jaime Jaquez get that much better? And that's for a guy whose numbers have dropped across the board from his rookie year. Last year, he averaged 11.9 points. That's down to 8.6 points a night. His minutes are down from 28 a night last year to 21 a night this year. Field goal percentage is down from 48% to 41%. Three-point percentage is down from 32% to 26%. Everything is down across the board. He's a pretty old player as it is for somebody that's just in year number 2. I think this is his ceiling, and I don't know how much better he's going to get from here. So I'm giving it a C+ because I still think he could be a fine rotational piece in this league. I just don't think his ceiling is at where a lot of people thought it could be after his productive rookie season. And then, man, what do I give this grade? Brandon Podziemski to the Warriors here at number 19. It's been a disaster season for Pods in year number 2. I'm going to give this a C because Pods had a productive year number 1. It's been not as good here in year number 2. He may get traded this year as well, but he's still just 21 years old. And I just kind of like his complementary skills a little bit more than Jaime. Jaime was always going to be somebody that would excel best as a scorer, but I do think Pods could be a better defender than Jaime, better rebounder, better passer, even a better 3-point shooter. Even though Pods has not been good as a scorer whatsoever this year, he's shooting 29% from 3, which is down from 38% from 3 last year. He's shooting 40% from the field, which is down from 45% last year. Points are down, assists are down, rebounds are down. It has not been a good year number 2 for Pods, and I was super high on him going into this year. It's definitely been a disappointment. I'd say his rookie year was around like an A, and this year it's around like a D, so I'm right here at a C. We'll get a little bit more positive here at 20. The Houston Rockets took Cam Whitmore. He fell on draft night because of injury concerns, and they ended up getting a steal. I'm going to give this a B because I think Cam Whitmore kind of having a down year compared to expectations for what he had after his rookie year, but is still, I think, going to be a good scorer in this league because Pods kind of does a lot of things well and doesn't excel as a scorer. Cam Whitmore's best attribute is scoring, and I do like his upside a little bit more than Jaime Jaquez because he's still 20 years old, so he still has a lot of room to grow. This year, though, he's been up and down with the G League after having a productive rookie year. His field goal percentage is down, same with 3-point percentage, but he still looks pretty good night to night. He did have a performance where he had 18 points against the Dallas Mavericks, and that was definitely encouraging. He looked a little bit more comfortable out there, and I know Reed Shepherd just got sent down to the G League. That's just going to happen with this Houston Rockets and their deep deep young core. And Noah Clowney, I'm going to give this grade a B. Noah Clowney did not have a good rookie year whatsoever. It was like an F, D rookie season, but this year Clowney has really developed as a nice floor spacing big for the Brooklyn Nets. He's shooting 38% from three, and he's still just 20 years old and has so much more room to grow. And now that the Nets are trading off their veterans, we're going to see more shots every night for Noah Clowney. He's up from 16 minutes to 20 minutes a night this year. He took around 4 shots a night last year to 7 shots a night this year, and I think that's going to get close to 10 by the end of the year. I'm kind of excited to see that version of Noah Clowney. Dariq Whitehead, though, I gotta give this a D. This has been a disappointing pick so far. He's still incredibly young. He's 20 years old, but he was hurt at Duke. He was hurt last year, and this year, after coming off a abysmal summer league where he could not hit a shot to save his life, he's only appeared in 4 games this year for the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not sure if this is just a bad environment, if it's not going to work out in Brooklyn. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't pick up his 4th-year team option when it's all said and done. I don't know if he's going to be included in a trade, because I thought he could be one of the best shooters in this class from what we saw in high school and at Duke, but it's been the opposite of that in the NBA. He just can't play, and he hasn't been a good shooter in summer league either. Another D here, we got Chris Murray going to the Portland Trailblazers. This was the first-round pick they got back from the Knicks and the Josh Hart trade. You see how valuable Josh Hart is right now, and I know it wouldn't be the same value to a rebuilding Blazers team, but the guy they took in Chris Murray has not been the same player they thought they were getting out of Iowa, because Murray in his rookie year shot 26% from 3. Like his brother Keegan, that was one of his better attributes, as he did shoot 38% from 3 as a sophomore at Iowa and 34% from 3 on high volume as a junior, but he has not been a good shooter in the NBA. This year, he's shooting 28% from 3. He has played a decent amount this year. He's appeared in 28 games, playing around 13 minutes a night. It hasn't been super consistent for Chris Murray, and this is not looking like a good draft for the Blazers so far. It's funny because Toumani Camara, who's one of the last picks in this draft by the Phoenix Suns, was actually the best player that Portland got in this draft so far, which is just insane to say. And I'm going to give my 3rd straight D, Olivier Maxence Prosper, to the Dallas Mavericks at 24. The Kings traded out of this pick to basically get off of the Rashawn Holmes contract, which I thought was a head scratcher at the time. And the difference between like OMP's D to like Jett Howard's F, they were picked basically 13 picks apart, so you're taking a chance on somebody here at 24. And OMP has not been the complimentary piece, the role player we thought he could be so far coming in at Marquette. Derek Lively has been so much better of a player from this draft class for the Dallas Mavericks, and he hasn't really had consistent playing time where he hasn't really played more than 10 minutes a night. Now Kyrie Irving just got hurt. Luke has been out. They've had their fair share of injuries this year, so maybe we could see OMP go on a run. Maybe. At 25, I think Detroit did a good job finding a nice backup point guard in Marcus Sasser. I'm giving it a B. And Sasser had a really productive rookie year. It hasn't been as good here in year number 2, but he is still shooting 35% from 3 on around 13 minutes a night. He did shoot 37% from 3 last year. I think he's a good defender. He's a solid playmaker in his limited minutes. He's a little bit undersized for a point guard, so that could come back on his defense as well. But honestly, you just need someone that can give you a productive 14, 15 minutes a night when Cade is on the bench taking a breather. And I think Marcus Sasser has done his job so far, and getting that value at 25, that's a B. At 26, the Pacers took Ben Shepherd. I thought this was a reach at the time, so I was a little skeptical about this pick, but he showed up in the playoffs last year. He showed up in big moments. I'm giving this a B. He's been a good 3-point shooter so far in his career. This year, he's shooting 38% from 3, and in the playoffs against the Bucks, he shot 50% from 3. In round 2 against the Knicks, he shot 45% from 3. He did struggle against the Celtics, but hey, this is way more production than I thought Ben Shepherd was going to give the Pacers so far. He's 23 years old. He's going to be a limited role player in this league, but I think it's good value for the Pacers here at 26. He's done more for them so far than Jarris Walker at times, and they took Walker 18 picks higher. At 27, I'm going to give Nick Smith Jr. a C-. I can't really give this much higher than this pick for the Charlotte Hornets. I like Nick Smith Jr. coming out a ton. I thought he was going to be somewhat of a nice spark plug off the bench, a nice microwave scorer. He has shot 41% from 3 this year in 16 games, but like a lot of these rookies, has had inconsistent playing time. He had an encouraging game, though, the other night, watching him go up against the Cavs, where he knocked down 4 threes, and I'm thinking, all right, he can actually be something for the Hornets going forward. I hope he can capitalize on that momentum and just be a consistent 3-point shooter for them off the bench. Here's one of my favorite picks so far, because he's been playing great over the last few weeks, and he had a lot of injuries coming out of Ohio State into the 23 draft. Bryce Sensabaugh. This is a B+. Bryce Sensabaugh has actually had 2 great games as of late. 34 points in their 36-point win against the Heat, and then 27 points against the Orlando Magic, where they ended up winning by 13. Maybe it's something about Bryce Sensabaugh being from Orlando, going back to Florida, and balling out against the Magic and the Miami Heat. Maybe that's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but hopefully it's the start of something great for Sensabaugh, who's been a great 3-point shooter for the Jazz this year. And another B+ here, Julian Strawther to the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, he's been a good role player for this team, and you got him at 29. He was an NBA-ready player coming out of Gonzaga. He's shooting 36% from 3 this year in about 34 games. Maybe you'd like for him to be a little bit better at times on both ends. for the Denver Nuggets, but he's 22 years old. He was drafted 29th overall, and I think he's only going to get better as he gets more familiar and comfortable in the system around Nikola Jokic. I feel bad giving the 30th overall pick an F grade just because you don't have as high expectations as somebody like you did with Jalen Hood-Schifino or Jett Howard. Kobe Brown to the Clippers, I'm going to give it a D. I didn't like this pick when it happened. He hasn't been great so far. He did show some promise last summer league, but hasn't really done a good job getting involved in this Clippers offense this year. He's only appeared in 10 games, and I'm not sure he's really going to play too much throughout year number 2. And there was a lot better players that went in the second round that could be a little bit more useful for this Clippers team right now. So I'll give it a D. And that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy, and subscribe if you were not already. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.